Welcome back, beautiful and amazing people. It's been a while. How are you? My name is Doc Genzo, and I'm here bringing you another duel video. Today we have SWORDSOUL on the left versus my friend Zach playing TEARLAMENT on the right. Let's go ahead and get started here with TEARLAMENT, starting us off with setting 2. Interesting choice to set 2 before summoning a monster, but we'll see how that goes. As a TEARLAMENT Sharon has been normal summoned. Looks like he didn't draw a very optimal hand here, but he does have a super poly face down, so we'll see how that goes later on. Looks like he also has an imperm set as well. So he's got a little bit of disruption there, a little bit of negation, and if he can get that super poly off, it might help him out here in the long run. Now, the SWORDSOUL player is going to draw for turn, and we're going to see what he decides to do here. Looks like he's going to summon the Tinny Spirit Shathana. Sorry, I had a little brain fart there. Shathana there. To now link it off into a Monk of the Tinny Shathana. Interesting choice. Some people don't run it, some people do. It's very good in the sense that it's a level 4, so you can synchro with it, overlay with it in case they get rid of like the Moye or something. And also that battle effect, it doesn't come up too often, but when it does, it's very devastating. As now a SWORDSOUL strategist Longyuan is activated, pitching off a blackout. Very interesting to pitch off the blackout there, but we'll roll with it as he special summons Longyuan and the token at the same time. So the token is a tuner, but he is locked into using synchro monsters only from the extra deck as long as it's on the board. Now we're going to go ahead and go into a synchro monster here, level 10. He's deciding on whether he wants to go Barone or Chung Ying. Let's see what he decides to go into here, or Chising. We'll see what he decides to go into here, folks. Looks like he's going to decide to go ahead and go into a Barone Defleur, which will let him have a Omni to get on the board as well as a pop on his turn. Looks like he's going to target that back row there to pop with the Barone effect. And let's see if the Zach has a response. Sorry, again, brain fart. My goodness. Looks like he's just going to go ahead and let that go through. Looks like he wants to keep the cards in his hand there. The Super Poly is going to get popped. Interesting choice there, as Barone would not be able to negate it, but again, looks like his hand is a little bit more valuable at this stage of the game. Barone is going to swing over the TEARLAMENT Shireen for 1,200 damage. My apologies. And also, we forgot to factor in the 1,200 for the Longyuan, and unable to edit in post, so I apologize for that. Or never mind, looks like he decided not to activate it earlier. And then 1,000 from the Monk of the Tinny swinging directly. So he's just going to set one card here. He does have that Dark Ruler in the hand in case TEARLAMENTs do decide to build a good board with the Winda and everything, and then just pass the turn there. He still has that Barone negate on the board that he has not used yet, so we'll see how that plays out here. As Rhino Heart is now activated and intending to use his effect to dump from the deck, to basically dump for the deck. Forbidden Chalice is going to be changed, giving him 400, but negating his effects for the turn. And yeah, that's going to be a bit of an issue on the TEARLAMENT player's side. Looks like he was counting on that top deck here. And looks like we're just going to decide to go to game 2 there. Looks like the brick was a little too much to handle there. As Rhoda is now activated here in the opening stages of game 2 to go grab any warrior monster from the deck. Rhino Heart is indeed a warrior. He is not a fairy like the other TEARLAMENTs. And now Primeval Planet Perla Rhino is going to be activated. Yes, I can't believe I said that correctly. So that's going to let him go add any TEARLAMENT monster from his deck to his hand, as well as give him a pop whenever he shuffles stuff back or fusion summons, as well as gives all his TEARLAMENT monsters and all his fusion monsters plus 500 and every opponent's monster minus 500. So it looks like he's going to add a TEARLAMENT Shireen. Thought about the Havness there for a second. Looks like he's going to normal summon the Rhino Heart that he just searched, and looks like the effect is going to be good. No imperms or ashes or anything of the sort here. Havness is going to be dumped, and then Havness's effect is going to trigger, letting him fusion summon if it's into the graveyard by card effect. These cards splash very well in a lot of decks. TEARLAMENT, very cool cards, very cool engine. You can actually just run it as like a little bit of an engine here if you like to play mill decks. Punk as well works well with it. A lot of other stuff. So Key Close is going to be summoned now to the field, letting him dump or add any TEARLAMENT's monster from his deck to his hand. He's going to add TEARLAMENT's Merly, which lets him mill 3 cards on summon. And then Key Close is now going to use this effect to target a card he controls, send that card to the grave, and if he does, special summon a card. Or maybe that's the opposite order. I apologize, don't know the exact wording there off the top of my head. But Merly lets him mill 3 on summon, and Key Close lets him mill 5 whenever she's sent to the graveyard by card effect. So it looks like he's going to get a net 8 mill here. Looks like he hit a Havness, which you can only use each effect of the TEARLAMENTs once per turn, so he can't fuse with the Havness again, but he did hit a Merly, so he is going to be able to fuse something with that, as well as Rhino Heart. Rhino Heart doesn't let him fusion summon whenever he's sent to the graveyard, but he does let him special summon itself back by sending a card from his hand to the graveyard, which is by card effect as well. It's not cost. So if he does have the Shireen in the hand that he wants to use the fusion as well, he can go ahead and do that. But it looks like he's going to activate the Merly effect here. And then he's going to send the Shireen to special summon the Rhino Heart as well. So it looks like he's going to be a little bit greedy here and go for all the fusions that he wants. So Merly is now going to fuse with the Kikolos and herself to go into any fusion monster, not just Tearlament fusion monsters, as long as they use themselves in the summon. So he's going to go into a Predaplant Dragostapelia, very good card for the deck. And then Shireen is now going to activate in a separate chain in the grave to fuse with herself and anything in the grave, on field, or in his hand. So he's going to use Shaddoll Beast and the Shireen to go into a Winda. And there's the Winda right now. Winda, again, very good card. This format, especially with all the special summoning, the Sprite, and SWORDSOUL even do, because SWORDSOUL is still a good deck that's being played. So he's going to link 2 now to go into a Sprite Elf. That's going to be his one special summon for the turn after Winda is live on the board. And the Sprite Elf lets him summon the Merly back on his opponent's turn, and so he can potentially get a special summon as long as if the Winda gets negated or something. But also, the Sprite Elf keeps the Dragostapelia and the Winda from being targeted by card effects. Now, Pod of Desires is going to be activated, banishing 10 cards from the deck face down. This is an interesting run here. I'm not quite sure because, honestly, in my personal opinion, I don't like Pod of Desires because you can banish all your combo pieces that you could ever want for just a draw 2 when there's other cards that can do it a lot better, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Anyways, back to the game. Looks like we're going to draw 2 there, and he did draw one of the Tearlament traps as well, so he's got a pretty good board set up here, and if he has a Dark Ruler, it'll be a lot easier to break, but we'll just have to see, because that Rhino is still on the board giving those attack boosts. So SWORDSOUL's going to draw for the turn and activate a SWORDSOUL Emergence right off the bat. It's going to let him search for any SWORDSOUL monster or worm if he controls a synchro. And he's going to grab the starter piece there, SWORDSOUL Moye. Moye is still a very good card, kind of expensive card actually, before the reprints come out in about a month. Actually, no, I don't think they're going to reprint the Mega 10s. Anyways, though, back to the game. Normal summoning the SWORDSOUL Moye now, and we're going to attempt to use the effect here, it looks like, to reveal a Long Yuan in the hand in order to make a token. We'll see if Dragostapelia will negate or not. Looks like he is going to let that go through, and the token will be summoned. Now he is locked into synchros while that token is on the board, and that was his one special summon for the turn, so Winda is going to be a bit of an issue. But he had the Tiny Spirit Vishuda in the hand. He's going to attempt to target the Winda, but again, Sprite Elf makes it to where Winda cannot be targeted. Again, these are sort of new cards at the moment, so reading is a bit off here. So Sprite Elf is going to protect the Winda from being targeted, as well as the Dragostapelia. So the only thing that he can really hit with the Vishuda is either one of the 2 back row or the Sprite Elf itself. And it looks like he's going to hit the Elf, so he can't get that effect. He's going to force out the special summon from the grave. Sprite Elf, very, very good card this format due to the quick effect special from the grave. It's so insane. So the Merly getting summoned, and then she's going to mill 3 on summon. Let's see what he decides to get off the top of his deck here. Looks like he hit a Shaddoll Beast, a D-Barrier, which would be crazy if he flipped it, and then also a Foolish Burial. So the Shaddoll Beast, since it was sent to the graveyard by card effect, is going to let him draw a card. But he's got to be careful, because since he activated that Pod of Desires, his deck is going to be a little thin, especially because Tearlament is indeed a mill deck, so he's got to be a little bit careful not to deck out here, folks. Triple Tactics Talent now being activated, another very good card this format, especially with all the monster effects going on the on your turn. Again, sorry, my gosh. Breath is a little out today, as he decides to grab the Winda instead of the Draco. That's an interesting play there. Looks like he thought he could maybe link off the Winda or something with the token or the Moye, but then realized that he is locked into synchros. So his better play now would be to suicide it into the Dragostapelia, or possibly have taken the Dragostapelia and then used it to negate the window with the Predaplant counter, and then run it over or something. Looks like we're just going to set 1 here, and then the window's going to go back to Zach there. Again, very interesting that he did not decide to suicide it into the Dragostapelia, but we'll see how it plays out here. That might be the smart move. That might not have been the smart move. We don't know. We'll see. As Zach now draws his card for the turn. And we will see where this goes as Merly is switched to attack mode. Looks like we're going to normal summon a Tearlament's Havness. Very interesting, decided to normal summon that, but it is 1700 attack, so it's definitely going to be able to get over most things that he needs to get over. So looks like he's going to attempt to go into battle phase here, and we'll see where this takes us. Merly is going to attempt to swing to the token. And then SWORDSOUL Blackout is going to be flipped, tributing 1 Worm monster to pop 2 cards on the opponent's field. And the interesting thing about Winda as well is that she cannot be destroyed by card effects. So he's going to target the Dragostapelia as well as the Winda to pop them both, but Winda can't be destroyed by card effects. So the Dragostapelia is going to be destroyed. He probably just didn't want to target one of the Tearlament monsters because if they're sent to the graveyard by card effect, they get their effects. So Havness is going to swing, and Winda is going to swing directly as well. So it's going to be a very, very not good day for the SWORDSOUL player, taking 4,800 damage off the bat there. But the thing about SWORDSOUL, as well as Tearlaments and all these new decks, it only takes 1 card for them to come back. So we'll have to see how that plays out. And it looks like we're going to pass the turn there. So SWORDSOUL is now going to draw for turn. Looks like he top decked a Called by the Grave. Now, you can't really see the other cards in his hand, but that Called by the Grave can be very, very good, especially against Tearlaments, because they all like to activate in the grave. But it looks like he didn't have everything else for the follow-up, so we're just going to go to Game 3. Game 3 here, SWORDSOUL player is going to start us off winning that dice roll. Is a very good advantage in Yu-Gi-Oh! Right now, as SWORDSOUL Emergence is not activating, letting him search for any SWORDSOUL card. Or, no, it's a SWORDSOUL monster or a Worm monster if he controls a Synchro. So it looks like he's going to search for any SWORDSOUL monster. Let's see what he decides to grab. Looks like all his Cosmic Cyclones were stacked there a little bit at the bottom. Might need to talk to Zach about that later. But looks like he's going to search SWORDSOUL Amoye once again. Moye, very good combo starter for the deck if you don't have the Ecclesia draw at the very beginning. But he also has that D barrier as well, which is going to be very good against Tearlaments because that'll lock him out of fusions. So Teeny Spirit Ashina is now going to be activated to special summon itself, and then link off to form a Monk of the Tinny. Now that's going to let him special summon any Tinny Spirit or Tinny monster from his deck if he controls a non-effect monster while that Ashina is in the grave. All he needs to do is banish that Ashina. So SWORDSOUL Moye is now going to be normal summon, and then the effect is going to attempt to be used, revealing a SWORDSOUL Strategist Long Yuan, and then Imperm is going to be chained to the Moye. Imperm the Moye, that's the cliche there. But he does have that Ashina in the grave, so he can use that effect to get something out in order to basically either synchro with the Moye or link off with the Moye. Another interesting play here is he decides to not use the Ashina while he can, and instead goes into a Shaman of the Tinny. Very interesting play, but maybe he's going to look greedy here, folks. So it looks like Shaman of the Tinny is now going to be activated, discarding a card from the hand. Looks like he's going to discard a SWORDSOUL Ataya. Again, very interesting, but he did waste his normal summon on the Moye, which got impermed, unfortunately. So the Shaman of the Tinny is now going to target the Monk in order to special summon it, but DD Crow is going to be chained to target the Monk and banish it. So it will no longer be able to be special summoned. Kind of ironic, the Tearlament player running DD Crow, but DD Crow is very good this format. Stops Sprite, stops SWORDSOUL, stops Tearlament. Basically stops a lot of decks dead in its tracks. So now looks like he's just kind of sitting on that Shaman there, and we'll see what else he has to do as he just sets one and passes the turn. If that's a blackout, that's going to be a little bit good for him because it does give him a little bit more interruption than he had before. We'll have to see, as Perla Rhino is now activated to go grab any Tearlament or Vsauce Starfrost. And he's going to go ahead and grab the Tearlament Shireen. Shireen, very good card, especially in decks that like to mill. Even if you're not playing Tearlaments, just run Shireen. Like if you're running zombies, just run Shireen, in my opinion. But Rhino Heart is now going to be normal summon, and then he's going to send from the deck to the grave any Tearlament card. He's going to send the Havness. The Havness is going to trigger. And then D-Barrier is going to be chained to the Havness activation, calling fusions. So no fusions this turn, unfortunately. So the Havness effect is going to fizzle if it indeed was declared. Either way, he couldn't really use it this turn because the opponent called fusions on the D-Barrier. So he's just going to have to play around it, but he does have that Perla Rhino, which is going to let him do a lot of things that he wouldn't normally be able to do in this situation. So the Shireen is going to be activated, sending a card from the hand, sending Merly to summon herself, and then mill 3. Looks like he's going to try and mill that Shaddoll Beast to get an extra draw, or possibly just get as many bodies on the board as he can, because Perla Rhino is indeed live. And He hit the trap and 2 other Tearlament monsters. Now, normally this would be a very good mill, but under deep air it's not that great. But the trap is indeed a good mill in the sense that it does let him get a card back to the hand. So he's going to add the Rhino Heart that he just milled to the hand. And, well, actually, no, it lets him search the deck. My apologies. There's 3 different Tearlament traps. They all do different things. Looks like he's going to add another Shireen there. Just get as many bodies on the board, it looks like, as well as just set up for the next turn. And then the Rhino Heart is going to summon itself off its own effect by sending said Shireen to the grave. So he's got pretty big beat sticks on the board right now because of the Pearl Rhino. And as well as some follow-up in his hand and his grave for later. So Rhino Heart is going to swing over the Shaman, and the Shireen and the other Rhino Heart are going to swing for a total of 5,200 damage, since the Shaman was losing 500 attack due to Pearl Rhino. And now we're going to overlay 2 here to go into Time Thief Redoer. Now, here's an interesting thing about this card in this deck. Time Thief Redoer doesn't detach for cost. Detaching is part of the effect. It's like Gigantic Sprite. So, since they're being detached as part of the effect, they're technically being sent to graveyard by effect, so therefore, the Tearlaments under him get their effects. So Vishuda is now going to be activated to special summon himself. And looks like they forgot the Time Thief trigger to take a card off the top of the opponent's deck under him. Chaining the effect of Time Thief Redoer to detach 2 to banish himself, basically. And looks like they remembered to do the Time Thief effect, and he hit an Ecclesia there. So Time Thief Redoer is basically going to run away for the turn to the banish zone, banish himself. But then all the Exceed material get their effects that were detached. So Shireen is going to be able to fuse from the grave with her effect. Looks like he's going to fuse with the Shireen and with something else. He does have his pick of the litter there in the grave. He could actually go into Kaleido Heart right now. So he's going to send back the Merly and the Shireen to go into a Kiklos. And then Kiklos is going to trigger on summon, and then Pearl Rhino is going to trigger as well. So Pearl Rhino is going to pop the Vishuda on the summon of Kiklos, and Kiklos is now going to search or dump, depending on his choice. Very good deck that plays a lot during the opponent's turn as well. And then that's going to be the match. Tearlaments take it.